the more I am at peace within myself and the more in balance I am within myself, the more clearer I get the information from my own divine source energy.
Before we dive into this week's episode, let's talk about a brand we both genuinely love, Cytoplan. You've probably heard us mention them before, and that's because their supplements are next level.
Yes, Cytoplan has been part of my routine for a while now. They just get it when it comes to health. Their whole approach is rooted in science and totally in tune with nature.
Exactly. Their formulas are bioeffective, which basically means the nutrients are in forms your body actually recognizes and uses properly and at the appropriate levels. Cytoplan is used and trusted by health practitioners across the country. Their formulas are developed by nutritional therapists and backed by over 3 decades of clinical insight. You really can feel the quality when you take them.
Plus, it's not just about what's in the bottle, it's the mission behind it too. Cytoplan is 100% owned by a charitable foundation, which means everything they do is about helping people live well for longer. It's not about trends or quick fixes, it's about real, lasting health.
That is so wonderful to know. And whether it's our energy, perimenopause, menopause itself, sleep, immunity, or just staying on top of your health, they've got you covered. You can also get a free health questionnaire and a consultation by ringing the helpline.
So if you're ready to take ownership of your health, check out Cytoplan, powered by nature, proven by science, and rooted in purpose. We'll pop the link and an exclusive 15% discount code in the show notes. Hello, I'm Caramellas.
Hello there, I'm Dr. Rosy Daniel.
You've just tuned in to Alive and Loving It, and we're here to help you bring joy and energy back to your life. Hey, you've joined us again at Alive and Loving It. Thank you so much for sticking with us and being with us now for our 17th episode. Wow. And we're just picking up speed. You know, we are in flow now. We're recording every week. Our guests are coming to us. And we have a very special guest for you today with the lovely Amanda Brooks. How are you, Amanda?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me here.
Well, you look wonderful. So if you're listening on audio, please go over to our YouTube channel and have a look at Amanda's new hair. She looks absolutely glowing. I'm so glad we did YouTube because we're called Alive and Loving It, and our guests are so full of life, and you can see it on YouTube. So head over there. Rosy, how are you today?
Marvellous, absolutely. And you might hear me say this about every health creation principle, but I think this one is my favourite.
Yes, so we are in the spiritual connection, health creation principle number 9. And this episode is all about spiritual energy transformation for mind, body and spirit. And Amanda is our expert, and we've got some great questions lined up for you, Amanda. So let's go. Wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. And I echo that, Amanda. We've done some beautiful work together recently, which was absolutely life-changing for me. So I'm just wondering, I get the sense you came into this world with this very special gift, this amazing sensitivity and attunedness. When did this appear, Amanda?
Well, I mean, I wasn't aware of it at the very early age, but my mum used to say, well, first of all, she said when I was born in the hospital, the nurses would just stand and gaze at me, which I think is a bit bizarre, but that's what she said. But when I was about 2 or 3, she said people would come round and they would feel so much better when they left the house, and they'd come with aches or pains or things going on, and I would just go near them. It was like I just instinctively knew, and they would feel better. So I think it was a young age, but obviously I didn't realize that that's what was going on. I just thought Mum had a lot of friends that weren't very well. So, yeah.
Wow.
So that healing presence of yours was there from very young. When did you start to realize that you had this gift?
I wouldn't have called it a gift when I started to realize. The reason being is because I would be feeling quite unwell and I could never really work out. And I was taking on board other people's stuff.
Right.
So it was like I didn't have the boundaries, but I was also had the, I'm going to call it an ability to see things and feel
Mm.
things. And I saw some quite traumatic things happen in my mind, and then they happened within a day, which was very distressing because I was only
Mm.
11.
Mm.
And I thought, I can't deal with this. It's too much. It's too much. So I was like, please, I just had to shut it down. Everything
Yeah.
had to shut down
Yeah.
until I became, well, I was training to be a chiropractor, and then I put my hands on client and in class, when you were practicing, and there was like all this information coming through. So, and then I realized, well, actually, maybe I can use this to really help shift people forwards. So,
Brilliant,
yeah.
brilliant. So that sensitivity that you had when you were little, it was quite overwhelming in terms of what what you would do with that. But it looks as if you grounded your own training into the body in the first place. Yeah. So what took you towards chiropractic and kinesiology?
So this is where the universe was definitely pushing me. So I had a couple of car accidents, and both times we were not at fault. So someone went into the back of us, someone went into the side of us, and it ended up that I was in considerable pain for 2 to 3 years. I ended up on morphine for the pain. I had a plaster cast. They did some traction over 3 weeks in a hospital just to try and reduce a lot of the pain. And they said that I would have to live, this would be my life. I was 24, 25 at the time. And they just said
Mm.
that your life will just be full of pain. But at that point, I was working in the register office, and one of the ladies there, she actually paid for me to go and have a chiropractic treatment and to have 4 or 5, which was amazing, amazing. And the chiropractor was so brilliant, and she was literally, it wasn't an easy journey, but she helped my body to unwind a lot
Mm.
of that trauma from the car accidents. And she said, "I think you should train in this. I really do think you should train in
Mm.
this." And so Bobby was like my mentor, my first mentor.
Mm.
And now looking back on it, because that was back in 1990 that I started the training for the chiropractic, she she obviously saw my healing abilities and kind of steered me into
Mm.
this, and it was the best thing ever because it allowed my gifts to come through, and I think the gifts were going to have to come through.
Yes, well, thank goodness for all the rest of us that they do and they have. And I know, Karen, that question of sensitivity and taking on other people's stuff is
Mm.
you know all about that, don't you?
Well, only just recently, I went for a treatment, shiatsu massage and energy healing, and I like to have treatments to help me manage my pain with my scoliosis, the curve in my spine, and basically I just like all of the treatments, and I've just been on the weirder the better for me. I am like, get me in, yes, it's fine. I was just going for the massage, and she said, "Oh, can my husband come in and do energy healing?" I'm like, yes, bring him in. And this is new information for me, Amanda, so I'm all ears. But it's really, really landing with me. about energy and what's yours and what's mine. And what this guy did is he did a lot of like noises and disrupting of the energy in the room. And then every so often he would say something to me. And what he did say was, you don't know which is yours and which is somebody else's energy. And I thought, well, I've not even heard that sentence before. So yes, that must be true. And the other thing he said was, you don't know that it's yours, it's somebody else's energy, but I am trying to heal that. So it's like I've taken on somebody else's trauma, somebody else's fear. And then because of the work that I'm in, I'm trying to heal that in myself. And it's taken a lot of energy from me. And he just said, you can't, it's not even yours. And it was like somebody had hit me with a brick. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's why I'm not, releasing this fear. I'm not healing it because it's not actually mine. And what I heard was, if the trauma didn't happen to me, then the fear, the energy that's left around after the trauma is not mine. So that's where my understanding has got me to. But Amanda, I'd love your take on that. But this is all brand new information for me.
Well, the thing is, we're like sponges. We've got our physical body and then we've got our energy field that's all around us, the auric field, where our emotional body is, our energy blueprint is. And we have this ability, you'll go into a room and it'll feel, oh, I love it in here, or, oh, I can't wait to get out. And that's your body giving you information about the energies. But what happens, especially when we're younger, is that we're sort of like, we're trying to learn everything. We're trying to work out where our boundaries are, where they're not. And so we can be like that sponge. We can take everything on board from around us. And then that's like a learned behavior. And you'll notice that if somebody says, I always feel so much better when I've spoken to you, and yet you feel like exhausted, that's a sign that you've taken some energy on from someone else. You've taken their energy. And the reason they like being around you is because you're absorbing their stuff so they don't have to deal with it. They're not doing it intentionally. They're not doing it consciously.
Yeah.
It is literally this very subconscious thing that goes on. But what happens is that we embody it, we take it on, we think it's ours, we try to fix it. So we're going around looking for, what do we need to do? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? And what we're doing every time we do that is we're further embodying it into our energy system.
Yeah.
So you then get into a spiral, like a time loop of trying to fix something that was never yours.
Yeah, that's where I've been.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, it took me till I was about 36 to realize that the majority of what I was feeling was not my own. So I think that means all three of us are sensitives, what I would call a sensitive. And that's, I mean, I think part of it does come from pure love and compassion that you want to heal and harmonize. But also, I think if you felt unsafe as a child, then as you say about that pattern, Amanda, that, you're trying to make it safe. You're trying to heal, harmonize, calm the energies around you. And so you get into that perpetual sort of rescuer, healer role. So, and as you say, Karen, end up holding that. But I want to ask you what you mean, Amanda. You describe yourself as an energy transformation practitioner working with body, mind, and spirit. So tell us what you mean by that.
So the way that from the chiropractic, I got into the kinesiology because you would get somebody structurally in alignment, but they'd still be experiencing a lot of pain or suffering in some way, shape or form. And once I started to realize that if you look at the whole of the body, so the spiritual, the emotional, the psychological, as well as the physical, you can start to unwind those patterns, release the things that were never theirs, dissolving those patterns. And so, I tried for a long time to work out, well, what do I call myself? And the way that I look at it is that I find where there are blockages in the energy flow and I transform them into lighter, brighter energy so that it feeds the soul instead. And so that was where the energy transformation part comes in, because you cannot do just one part. I can do a physical manipulation, but if you don't deal with the other aspects, the emotional, maybe the limiting belief that's in there, the ancestral programs that have come down through the energy field, through learned behavior, then literally the pattern keeps coming back.
So in amongst that, which is just such beautiful, beautiful work, I'm just wondering about your connection, your spirituality, the source of your healing energy. Tell us about that and how you get yourself in that zone.
Yes, so I was a bit like what Karen was saying. I was going around everywhere trying to find out and get all these answers. But what I've realized over time is that the more I am at peace within myself and the more in balance I am within myself, the more clearer I get the information from my own divine source energy. So when I'm working, I'm connecting in with my own higher self. And so the way that I kind of see it is a bit like this beautiful tube of like golden white light that comes from just up above the crown all the way down, covering the whole of my energy field, keeping me, I'm going to say protected. That's a bit of a strange word, but not because somebody else means me harm, but when I'm in that space, it's a time when I can pick up lots of information about the imbalances in someone. And I want to ensure that I'm not putting my stuff over onto them and their stuff over onto me. So
you're in a state of high vibration and alignment and in a very pure and very sensitive space. Yeah. So when you're connecting to your higher self, what then happens with your client?
So when I go to work with somebody, just before the session, I often do my own connection. And then when I am working with somebody and we've gone through the hello, how are you? Hearts. I'll just say, just give me a moment as I just connect in to your own source energy. And people just go, what does that mean? And I said, well, you've got your physical body and you've got your energy source that's right inside. I said, and what we want to do is I want to connect in from my higher self to your higher self so that we're getting the absolute best information about where those blocks are. I said, because if I was to ask you what was causing it, you wouldn't need to be here. It's because you don't know. And I don't know you. So if we go up to that level of your higher self, that pure spiritual connection, then that's when we get the information. And it's so interesting because people go, it's like you know me. It's like you know me, exactly me. And I said, it's not that. I said, it's just that's how your system is talking to me about where the blocks are, what's created and linked into this position right now.
Yeah, and I mean that is just so precious because all healing starts with witness, and people want to be seen and they want to be known and they want to be understood. So you're being very humble there, saying it isn't that, but actually, you are seeing the pure essence, or the through that higher self of the person and what they're dealing with, which is such a loving thing to do. Yeah.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
hadn't really thought of it like that, so thank you.
Yeah. You mentioned about this idea then that when you're in connection with the higher self of that person, you've previously asked permission to work at that level with the person, which you said is very, very, very important to you. But you also had this concept of using yourself then as a surrogate, so that you can do some muscle testing on yourself. So that sounds very extraordinary. Tell us more.
So with, I've been using myself as a surrogate we've all been using ourselves as a surrogate, which is why we take on board everyone else's information and their illnesses. That's being a surrogate.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing is, because I'm actually doing it from that aspect that I want to see where the blocks are. So as I do that connection, I then just ask, do I have permission to test what is going on for that person? And I would say in my career of over 30 odd years now, I think I've only had 3 people where when I went to do the work, the body went, nah, you're not doing it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I had to say to
Fascinating.
them, I'm really sorry, but I haven't got permission. I'm not going to charge you. We can have a chat if you like, but your system just doesn't want to go there.
Hmm.
And it's been really interesting because those people have sent me loads of clients, even though I never could work with them. It was
Fascinating, isn't
very
it?
And
interesting.
why would that be, Amanda? Is it just that their system's not ready to heal it yet, or it's a different connection? It needs a different connection, so it can't get connection with you, but it might be a different therapist that is right for them. What causes that, do you think?
All of those. So some it can be that really right now is not the right time for them. It
Mm,
can also be that I'm not the right person to work with them. So, I will find out if there are other people that I know that we can actually then do that. And sometimes it's been, so for one of them, they said, well, I've actually had a really rubbish day and I'm really stressed out and I
mm,
really cannot be here right now, but I felt like I had to be. And so
ah,
I think it can be a bit of all of that.
Mm.
But I often say to people when they want to work with somebody, because I have clients all over the world and they say, oh, I'd like to see somebody face to face. And I said, well, the best thing to do is
mm,
speak to them, see if you resonate with them, because I've sometimes spoken to someone and think, I really don't want to work with you.
Mm.
There's nothing wrong with that person, but on an energetic level, I just
Mm.
am not the right person for them. I maybe don't have the skill set that they need.
Yes, and I think that the message to everybody listening is trust yourself. If you feel, I once went on it was actually a chanting weekend course, and as I went into the place, I get this, it's hilarious. It was in a place called Grimstone Manor in a village called Horrabridge. This place still
nice.
exists. But the clue might have been in the name, and
Yeah.
but I went in, and as I went in, I just got that flash of, and I sort of clocked the teacher and the space and what have you, and I got the message, sort of that this guy has nothing to teach me. There's nothing in this. This is not. But did I listen? No, I was young. I was impressionable, and I stayed. And I had a really difficult experience where, at some level, some sort of veil was ripped, and it took me about 3 years to recover from an opening that shouldn't have happened. And if I'd listened to my intuition or my higher self, even though I'd paid my whatever, I should have turned around and walked away.
Mm,
So I think when we get those messages, and how many of us, ignore those messages from within, because
mm,
we do all have a higher self. I mean, this is a new concept that we're putting on the table today. And
mm,
I first came across this in the context of transpersonal psychology or psychosynthesis at the Bristol Cancer Help Centre, because the counsellors were not just working at the emotional level. They were saying, you've got a soul, you've got a spirit, you've got a higher self that can actually have perspective on what your little self or your everyday self is going through. Um, so that put that idea in my mind that, from 20 years ago, that we do all have this higher self that's trying to give us messages and information, but we often don't listen. Yeah.
Well, I think we're too busy to listen, Rosie, because as Amanda was just explaining, that practice you go into before you go to be with a client is you're stilling your whole system, aren't you? I've got the sense of it as you were explaining, connecting to this golden light. You can't be doing that if you're putting the washing in, taking the kids to school. I mean, that is probably just a little bit too much. I really got a sense of peace as you were coming back into that golden light. And from there, our system can be creative, intuitive. You're in rest and digest. Everything's working perfectly in this beautiful body. And so then there's space for this information.
That sometimes people have that little voice that says, don't marry that man or don't buy that house. And do we listen?
I want to.
Yes. we go forging ahead. So that listening in and stilling the mind, which is why meditation and spiritual practice is so important, because we start to get that finer attunedness. But tell us more about the healing of family patterns, ancestral patterns. What's that all about, Amanda?
So one of the things I was finding as the chiropractor, like I was saying, people's systems weren't, coming into balance. They were still experiencing lots of pain. Is when I started working, I started realizing that people were carrying a lot of ancestral patterns. So things that maybe had happened. I mean, some people think of ancestors just being back to the war, but when I've worked with people, it's been going back to the very early ages. And what happens is that the trauma of what an ancestor has been through, they never had the skill sets. They had no skill sets to be able to understand it. They hadn't got the time, the capacity. And so it just energetically got stored and keeps getting passed down, passed down, passed down. And once I started to look at where I could release and dissolve some of the ancestral patterns, so take the one of I had this one where I couldn't run out of anything, so I had to have two of everything. It was such a laugh in the family. It was like, oh, Amanda, she's always got double of everything, so you can always go to her and get some extra. But it was like this drive that was within me. And then when I realized that there was ancestral patterns around never having enough, the going back quite a bit far in the family, that there wasn't enough food or anything like that. So once I started to clear that, I've gone down to, I do run out of things. So
how does that make you feel?
Not very good to begin with. Yeah. But I've now got to that space where, like, I'm like, oh, I can see it's getting low, so now I just will get one in hand, but not like I was. But these patterns can rule the way that we live. We can get a pattern that can pass down of people pleasing, of disempowerment, of believing that you don't know enough or that you can't fix yourself. So these are all beliefs that get passed down through the ancestors. And so about 8 years ago, I started doing these live calls where I'm clearing for groups of people the different ancestral patterns that can be around a specific topic, because we can have loads of them. And some of them are from when we're children, that we see mum screaming because there's this tiny little spider in the room. And we're like, it's a really terrible thing. So then we learn that behavior. But again, that could have been going back to when we were in the caves, and that something like that could have been life or death. But it's how it gets passed down through the generations. And I found that if I miss that part out in my work, then I am doing a great disservice to my clients.
And one thing that blew my mind not so long ago was being introduced to, I'd heard about the idea of past lives and the Buddhist idea that we're on this wheel of incarnation, reincarnation. But one of my friends, who's a hypnotherapist, as well as doing past life understanding and readings, was helping people understand past death trauma and what soul memory they had of trauma associated with a previous death. And that's what I experienced in Grimstone Manor. It was actually a past death, but the guy couldn't handle it whatsoever. He handled it really badly. But I know sometimes with some of my clients, when there is a massive fear of dying, that there is potentially a trauma linked to that. So whether it's our past life or something in ancestral consciousness or collective consciousness, I think that can be healed and lead to an altogether much more peaceful, conscious dying process. Have you found that, Amanda?
Well, actually, it's one of the things that I work a lot with. So I have a list. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's about 73 different ways that life has been ended traumatically in another time. And what I found is that because we no longer have the physical body, because you've died, the soul holds the trauma. And then it keeps bringing it down for you to heal. But you're not given the book on, right, this is what's happened last time. You just get that. So I've had a lot of people that can't actually stand anything around their neck. They can't have blouses or turtleneck tops. They can't wear necklaces. And if anyone goes near their neck, they just absolutely go to pieces. And sometimes, obviously, there would have been life where they may have been hung or strangled. And I know it sounds really awful, but they are the memories that are in the soul, and we can only clear this stuff when we incarnate in a physical body.
Yeah.
So our body is trying to say, these are the things that are needing to be cleared at a soul level.
Yeah. I absolutely know that to be true. I had a lady turn up, funnily enough, the weekend after I'd had the traumatic experience of somebody not handling a regression well for me. A lady came driving into the surgery just as we were closing in the GP surgery, and she had a burn. And I said, you need to go to accident and emergency, you're in the wrong place. And she just kept pointing at me. And I said, honestly, sweetheart, this is not the right place. You need to be in A&E. And she kept shaking her head and pointing at me. And the nurses by this point had realized. They'd come out and they said, come on, let's get you inside. Let's get these wounds dressed. And while the nurses were at the business end sorting out her wound, I was going in and out of, I'd never been trained as a regression therapist, but she was going into memories of past deaths linked to fire. And anyway, when and I kept on just intuitively saying, that was then, this is now. Where are you now? You're alive. You've survived, and keeping on bringing her back into the reality that she was okay and alive. Anyway, when she came round and out of this experience, it turned out she'd almost died in fire 3 times in her life. A flat underneath her had caught fire, her own cooker and house had caught fire. And on that day, she'd been filling a lighter, covered herself with the gas, lit it, and burnt herself. So, it was a recurring pattern. And I think we broke it on that day because she'd seen the past trauma and realized that she was safe, that even despite that, she was safe, she was loved, she was held. I hope I did the right thing, but I've seen it with my own eyes. But just coming to you and your own, you used the word when we were talking before, spiritual hygiene, and keeping yourself in such a high frequency and energy. How do you do that, Amanda?
I would love to say that it's a really complicated piece, but it isn't. It is more about, it's more just about each time going, how I'm feeling. Is it mine? If it's not mine, then I have what I call a cosmic container. So it's like this big golden dumpster in my energy field. And I just let anything that's not mine go into there to dissolve, into transform. But it's also about ensuring that in between clients that I clear my space so that I'm not taking what I've just cleared into another session. And it's also about making sure that I eat well and that I hydrate well. and that I'm literally ensuring that as much as possible that any emotions that I've got, I deal with. That is so much easier said than done some days. But it's the meditation, and it's about that peacefulness. And it's about, for me, also listening to what is it that I need right now. And sometimes what I need right now is just to go into a room and be on my own for 5 minutes. And that's what it takes to reset.
Well, when I first discovered spiritual healing, it was when I got to the Bristol Cancer Help Centre, now Pennybron, UK. And the wonderful Christopher Pilkington had come out of the Church of England because he preferred his ministry of healing to the ministry of the word. He was quite introverted, quite a gentle, quiet soul, and he discovered that he was had this healing ability. But he said in the monasteries of old where healing was offered, for every one monk in front of the wall giving the healing, there'd be 8 behind the wall, praying in the spiritual energy and creating that morphic field of love and light, and healing, pure healing light. So, I think once again, the power of the group, when we do work as a team, and we can support each other to keep our energy clear and bright. That's one of the advantages of working in a healing center. But Karen, what are you thinking? What's this bringing up for you?
I am a student today, and I feel so blessed to just be part of the conversation and listening to you both explain it in such a clear way that we can understand. And I think, Amanda, I'm right in saying that it feels like the time is right now to be speaking about this. I know you do a podcast, a monthly podcast with Joe Dahl, who's going to be a guest for us next week. And I'm listening to those podcasts and learning so much. And also, I can hear in your voice a little bit, maybe on your podcast, that this is new information that you're sharing, and maybe a few years ago you wouldn't have done. And now you're being so brave to be able to go, no, this is who we are. And I'm telling the world, and here it is. And it's so the right time. Do you think so, Amanda? People are ready to hear this information now.
I think they are. I mean, a few years ago, I was trying to put some information out there, and I was like branded a witch or woo-woo or all of this. And I'm like, I'm talking about something that's natural. It's about your body. It's the humanness. Whereas now, whether it's also because I'm a little bit older, it's like, no, this is happening. And the feedback that I'm getting from people that have heard it just say, you've made me look at how I'm being in a different way. And I feel more empowered. And that's the purpose. I always believe that when you're doing any healing and transformation work on somebody, what you're doing is you are empowering that person.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. You're not taking it from them. You're empowering their body to heal itself.
Yeah, and I'd just like to share, I was privileged to go to Japan to do some study with the Jo-Rei Society, which was started by a beautiful man called Mokichi Okada, who was born, he died on the day I was born. And I think we must have waved because I always had a very strong Japanese connection. But his model was that, because he taught that the people who are practicing Jo-Rei, the Rei is the same as the Rei in Reiki, but Reiki is universal light, Jo-Rei is divine light. And he taught his people to give each other healing every day, just with through their hands. And his model was that we accumulate what he called clouds on the spirit, or clouds on the soul. And he said, with this divine light of purification, you can evaporate those mists or clouds on the soul, just like when the sun comes out on a summer's morning and evaporates the mist in the valleys. So for me, that was the such a simple, beautiful picture, that we do accumulate these clouds of negativity or distress or trauma, and that they can be melted, you know?
And if they're not, Rosy, then your world becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. And I'm seeing that happening to so many of my friends in their 50s and their 60s, is that particularly if they're sensitive, they're taking on more and more, watching the news, reading the news, hearing people's traumatic stories, and their fear is growing and growing and growing. And they're afraid to go out of their house.
Yeah.
They're afraid to try new things. They're afraid to experience this wonderful life that is so precious, a gift that we've been given. And it breaks my heart. So to know that actually that stuff is not mine, it's somebody else's, and there are people like you, Amanda, that can help us release it. I'm absolutely sure that my pain in my scoliosis is worse when I'm in that state, because I get in a contracted position and then I start getting muscle ache. So it's really, it's great information, this, to get out there, and it brings hope.
Yeah.
I'll be like, everybody who's telling me they don't drive here, or they don't go on a train up there, or they won't go out of the county now, or I'm like, you're holding on to stuff that is not yours.
What you're saying about media and us being flooded is a really big thing. And my bugbear on that one is, I heard a beautiful psychiatrist talking about the fact that by the time a child is 11, they've seen 10,000 violent deaths on the telly. By the time they're 18, they've seen 40,000 violent deaths on the telly. They're playing games which are all about shooting, killing, banging. And are we surprised that, that we live in this time of war? And it's so I do think that, especially, well, we're all sensitive. Let's face it, we're all sensitives, and that having media fasts is something we should put on the map here or on the table, so that we're not filled up with all this negative, horrible energy.
Yeah. And what we should just appreciate as well, Rosy, is that you and I and Amanda, we have the privilege to be able to do that as well, because that trauma is not happening in our country at the moment, or not happening in our family. And I feel very blessed that we have that privilege and other people don't.
It's not me saying ignore the trauma and the distress, far from it. We can, in our meditation, especially in a metapavana, loving kindness meditation, we can expand our heart energy to hold the whole world and everybody in her.
But, we all we've got a part to play there, haven't we? To send
our love and to visualize the world in a healed place. But thank you so much, Amanda, for opening this amazing door to show us how our spirit can be lifted, brightened, healed. It is absolutely beautiful work you're doing.
Can I share one thing based on what you both said? Because it came through very clearly that and this is for everyone, as you feel those clouds, as you feel that heaviness, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to just imagine this beautiful white light, column of white light. And as you breathe in, you just see that expanding. And as that happens, it will start to dissolve those clouds. And the more we do that on a daily basis for us, the more other people will feel that change, and also it will happen. And that will help to change that balance of what we see and feel and everything like that.
That's so true. When you're around people who meditate, they're not the ones who start the arguments, are they? So, cultivating that our own inner peace is absolutely there. But, this beautiful thing you do to hold others, to connect, and to do this healing work. What blessed work. And thank you so, so much, Amanda, for today and for all the work that you do.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Alive and Loving It. We really hope that today's conversation has sparked your passion and showed you ways to open up into the vibrant life that's possible for you.
Absolutely, Rosy. I mean, we do have to remember that transformation begins with love, and that is self-love, love for others, and love for our beautiful planet. When you embrace love and you just allow yourself to receive as much as you give, you unlock the fullest potential of your life.
That is the truth, Karen. And we're here to support you every step of the way on your journey. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, please join our community and check out our trainings and our services such as my Dr. Rosy Daniel Clinic and Karen's beautiful women's circles and retreats and the events where we can all go deeper together. And do please send us your feedback. We want to hear your ideas for the podcast, who you'd like us to interview, and the questions you want us to ask and get answered. Through the contact page on our website, just go to aliveandlovingit.org.
I've really enjoyed reading them. But when you're there, be sure to sign up for our newsletter and updates. And what about following us on Instagram as well? We are at Alive and Loving It Community. Once you've signed up to the newsletter, you'll receive extra notes from today's show and more inspiration to help you live your most vibrant life.
Thank you for being with us. Keep shining, stay true to yourself, and remember, this is your time to live your fullest, healthiest life.
So until next time, keep doing what you love most in life. I know Rosy and I will be. We're so excited to connect with you on the next episode of Alive and Loving It. And we welcome you with open hearts to our Alive and Loving It community.